Cheers folks and welcome to my channel. It's Alliance War number 7 in season number 5 and today we are meeting Gods of Destruction. Now, before I enter into, what team I used, what path I did and everything which I usually do in the war videos, let me dwell 2 seconds on this matchup. They placed Platinum 1 last season. They're currently placed number 30 according to war rating. But Gods of Destruction is currently placed in Gold 1 in the current season leaderboard. Now, I really don't understand how we are able to match an alliance that's currently placed in Gold 1. We don't tank during off-season, we have by far the highest war rating, we don't match during strange times, and we don't do deals with other alliances in order to avoid other top alliances. We already faced a Poco this season. So this actually is a product of Kabam allowing higher ranked alliances to still match up with alliances from a lot lower tiers. And I don't think that's okay, I don't think that's the way it should be, and I think Kabam really has to fix it during the next seasons. Still, it is our war and we have to play it and we have to face, whoever Kabam gives us. And today I've been back on path 7, which is why I'm going back to my, let's say, 90% standard team, which is Void, Blade and Ghost Rider. Also, I will explain a little bit on the way. There are some champs which also make it necessary to take that team, just to make sure to always, again, have the best answer to the opponents that you will find on the nodes ahead. So today I'm again starting on the right side, on actually all the way path 7. So I'm not switching paths in between. And I have already explained the very first node in one of my previous videos, but I hope also to have new viewers, of course, who've never seen my other videos before. So I'm going to explain it happily again. The first node is characterized pretty much by the Limber ability. It's got, let's say, rather low champion boost. Here we have 150% attack and health, and again another 100% health. But the fact that every time you parry stun, the time or the duration of the next parry stun is being reduced. That's the Limber ability. So you have to just watch out a little bit that whenever you parry, or you can maybe parry that opponent 3-4 times depending on how they mastered their Limber ability, and then after that they are basically stun immune. And on this very first node I am facing a Proxima. 6-star, unduped. Well, I don't think for the defense she really has to be duplicated, so it doesn't really matter. And as you can see, also placed with double edge, which just makes that she suffers from recoil after using a special attack, but not placed with a very high Limber. So I was actually able to parry stun her quite a few times, which is good. And then actually by the third time I also realized that you can evade her special one and directly counter attack after that. So it took a bit of a warm-up to get, really into the fight, but that's also what I think the first nodes are there for during the war, to have that period when you need a little bit of a warm-up and really get into those fights, and then hopefully have the better fights for later when you have the much higher tier opponents. Now, the next opponent I took was on node 14. Node 14 is very much a health, attack boost and physical resistance. So usually there is tanks that people place on this node, because it wasn't quite clear. This could also, by now the 5-star could also be an abomination. That's why actually my teammate asked me to take that node, because I had Blade with a villain synergy. Still, it was turning out not to be abomination, but a Luke Cage. A Luke Cage, of course, with it indestructible, so you hit him once, wait until his indestructible is over, and then you just start the normal fight. And I think personally it just takes a while, because he has the character Luke Cage has a lot of physical resistance, plus he gets additional physical resistance on that node. But in general, I mean, his specials are pretty easy to evade. it doesn't really matter if it's special 1 or special 2, so I just do my normal fight and just wait for him to decide, okay, which special he wants to fire off. And of course, I mean, he's anyways bleed immune, so the new global node bleed immune doesn't do anything for him. But it just takes some time. It just really, being patient, doing your things, rinse and repeat. Now he's back at his second cycle of indestructible. You again just, trigger indestructible and wait until indestructible is over. And firing off special 2s with blade all the time. And then eventually, after a while, he is down. I mean, this is a rank 4 Luke Cage. Again, he's down after 1.5 minutes with blade. So I know I said it before in one of the other videos. I think blade's damage output still is very significant, even if now all champions are bleed immune. And even on such a node which has a very high physical resistance and strong health boosts, blade still one of the main attack champs, if you ask me. And that was again the fights in the evening, in my European evening, and I continued next morning because from that point right there, I can basically go all the way to the mini boss in one go, have one boost, and don't have to boost twice to clear my path. Now, the next node is Kingpin, and it's a very, very tricky one because node 31 is a health and healing recovery node based on buffet. So every time you get a buff, your opponent heals for 5% of their max health, and that is amplified by that health and recovery plus 150% healing. Kingpin has the ability to shrug off debuffs and transform them into rage buffs, which is why you can't really use Void. So I had to use Blade. And Blade, the only way to get a buff with Blade is to have the Dexterity Mastery. So when you fight Kingpin on this node, you have to take off the Dexterity Mastery. Now, because some of you asked about my masteries, what I did in this context is to just shortly record my masteries. I'm not going to comment a lot on the masteries right now, just so for those of you who want to just see the masteries, now you can see them. What I did though in the proficiencies mastery here is that I had to change those masteries because I had to take away dexterity. Again, dexterity just because of that buff, of that precision buff that you usually get after you evade with dexterity. And that is exactly the buff that otherwise would be used to heal Kingpin. So once that dexterity mastery is off, I actually can fight him without having to worry at all about buffet, about him gaining health back when I'm getting a buff, because I don't get a buff. I have no possibility to gain any buff during the entire fight. And then, of course, on top, because I have the synergy with Ghost Rider in my team setup, I have Danger Sense activated because Kingpin is a villain. So on top to, taking away his healing abilities, I use Blade because he actually has a strongly increased damage output against Kingpin. And again, like when you take away that buffet healing opportunity, then basically it's a normal fight like you would fight any other Kingpin on any other node, or as you would actually fight him in the arena. Again, because he is able to transform debuffs into rage buffs, and if he gets a lot of rage buffs, he does a lot of damage, even if he just hits your block. My recommendation is fight him like you would fight a stun immune champion. So not parry stun him at all, but just let him hit your block, then evade his heavy attack, and then counter. And yes, always with Blade, as I always do, try to get to your special attack too. I also took this 200% skill boost for that reason, because when you then use your special attack 2, you get a lot of energy back, and you basically can use the special attack 2 right after that again. So as you see here, I don't parry stun him, I let him hit my block, I evade his heavies, and then I counter attack, always getting him to his special attack 1, because again, dexterity is off, so I would not be able to evade his special attack 2. But his special attack 1, even without dexterity, is very easy to evade. So, you know, it's just something that is very easy actually with Blade, probably also with a lot of other champions. The only thing you really have to worry about is to take away dexterity, and then you can just fight him like any other kingpin. Yeah, special attack 1, very, very easy to evade. And if it takes a while for him to fire it off, you know, just be patient. Just, you know, avoid his basic attacks every once in a while. And then make sure that you counter him again once he's fired off his special 1. So I personally feel that Kingpin with Blade, one of the easiest fights on any of those healing nodes. It's not so difficult and not so expensive to take off dexterity for one fight. And then what I always do is I save 1 point in the mastery when I take dexterity off, because then when I need dexterity again, I don't have to change all the masteries again in that section, proficiencies, but I can just add that 1 point that I left open to dexterity again. So I really just have to change masteries once. Don't make the mistake to use all your points when you change and take dexterity off. Then you have to go all the way back and change all the points again. And it's double as expensive. Now the next node is the famous aggression, armor, and explosive personality node, which means that your opponent gains armor ups every 2 seconds, and you cannot hit their block more than 5 times, otherwise you lose 25% of your health. So, you know, you have to play it in a smart way. Again, it is the node that is very likely to have an Iron Man Infinity War, and on this node, it's probably the only node where Iron Man Infinity War doesn't have to be a duplicate. In this case, it's a non-dupe 6-star. And so, highly likely it's an Iron Man Infinity War, which is also why I took the invulnerability, because it, invulnerability boost against such a champ, because he is dangerous. He is dangerous. So you have to really watch out. You have to watch out that he doesn't get more than 4 armor ups, and now he already got 4, and he just got 4 with his last hit on his basic attacks, which I didn't realize, and then I tried to attack him. And of course I got parry stunned. And now when he has more than those 4 armor ups that you see under his health bar, all you can do is hit with your heavies. Now the good thing is Void has a heavy that consists of 3 punches, so every punch takes away 1 armor up, and you have to get him to a stage again where he is below those 4 armor ups, which is now basically. And then let him fire off his special 1, evade his special 1, and now he's again at 3 armor up, so it's a bit too dangerous. So again, just a heavy, and once the heavy hits, and he is again in that phase where he is below 4 armor ups, then you can start to think about actually firing off your special attacks. But in this case, it takes a very long time, so you have to be really, really patient and just rinse, repeat. Just use heavy attack after heavy attack after heavy attack. And now he's at a stage where he's at 2 armor ups, 3 armor ups, which I can actually take away. And so with the next set of attacks, I decided now I can fire off my special. And I always do it after 2 heavy attacks, heavy attack punches. So I use my heavy, 2 of the 3 punches, and after 2 of the 3 punches, I apply my special attacks. Special Attack 2, or in this case Special Attack 1. Special Attack 1 always better because it activates that debuff. And the only good thing now with an unduped version of Iron Man Infinity War is that at the end he doesn't gain any power, and also you don't have to worry about his armor ups that also activate the auto block, the auto parry. So besides that one mistake in the very beginning, where I just didn't see for the split second that he had the 4 armor ups and hit his auto block, actually a very straightforward fight. Just again, it takes a while. Void, I love Void, but you know, depending on your fighting style, you have to be patient with Void. On the next node, again a healing node, Arc Overload, triggering every 20 seconds, and again the healing is amplified. And I originally thought that this would be a Dr. Voodoo. And of course, I mean, against the Mystic on that node, I would always use Void. I would always use his ability to turn regeneration into degeneration. But it turned out actually not to be a Dr. Voodoo. It turned out to be the Hood, which is quite honestly not a big difference. I would say, especially since Mystic Dispersion has been nerfed. Because all you have to do is make sure that you don't get him to a Special Attack 2. Let him fire off his Special Attack 1. Very easy to evade. Have to watch the timing a bit so you don't get caught into his shock. You don't want to get shocked by his Special 1, because then after a while you would get stunned and he can freely attack you. So, you know, just make sure that you get the timing right on evading his Special 1. And then it's the usual way of fighting with Void. You spam Special 1s, you spam your debuffs, make sure that he gets a lot of Petrify debuffs. So whenever this Arc Overload triggers, again, he is just degenerating a lot. And that's basically, now he's got Fear of Void, he's got 1 Petrify buff, and he's just slowly degenerating. And then he's down. So actually a very easy fight. And then already it's again the path progressing to the mini boss. And the mini boss today has been a Cable. Unduped 6-star Cable. And the mini boss node here is again healing, regeneration, amplified by 200%. And the famous strike back, so whenever I use any special attack, my opponent would gain a full bar of power. Now, as Cable is not duped, he does not get any power flood, any power gain. So the only thing he can get is actually a regeneration buff when he fills 1 bar of power. Still, it is not a big problem, because basically you do whatever you do with Void again. Make sure that he gets debuffs, and especially those Petrified debuffs. Now, I personally prefer Cable to fire off his Special Attack 1, just because it's easier to evade, and actually you can directly counter attack. Special Attack 2, I think Special Attack 2 got a strange timing, and here I missed the timing on the second one, on the second shot of his. I always think it's traveling faster than it actually does, so I was actually too quick evading, and it hit me. But again, Void is Incinerate immune, so he doesn't get any incineration. What he does get is the concussion debuff from that Special Attack 2 from Cable. So what you got to do is you wait until the concussion is over, and then you start applying your debuffs again. But again, I find it easier to evade his Special 1 like this. You block and you hold block, and then you slightly move. It's a constant movement that you go back all the way until he's done firing off his Special 1, and then you can directly counterattack. A lot of people don't know that you can directly counterattack after a Special 1 from Cable, but you can. And eventually, again, the Petrify debuffs will turn his regeneration into degeneration and will slowly kill him. And that was again the path. The war is not quite done yet, but already now, at I would say almost half of the war, we got a huge lead over our competitors, over our opponents. So it's very, 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 very likely that we're going to win this war, which would make it streak number 7, which would be great. But again, I think that Kabam has to work a little bit on the matchups of Alliance Wars in the future. And I hope to see that hopefully next season, if not maybe the season after. But it's good for us. We are still on our winning streak. And yeah, if you liked the video, give it a like. If you're new to the channel and want to watch more war videos like this in the future, hit the subscribe button. And I hope to see you very soon. Cheers, folks.